Welcome, everybody. This is the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining us for some craft beer and conversations. If you're joining us for the live stream, if you want to drop a comment as to what you're drinking, any questions on what we're talking about, or information that we may not know, we always love to hear from you. I am Tim Dennis. Brian Hewitt, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad. I can't believe the week has gone by so quickly. It's been
They fly.
absorbing.
They just go.
Yeah.
We're a little better this week, pollen wise,
True.
than we were last week in Atlanta. We had some. I don't think we broke our record. We had last year. We had a crazy record of, I think, tree pollen. An extreme number is like over 100 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we had a day that was like 14,800.
Crazy. Yeah.
So it just gets wild. It gets wild. Nate, how's it going, man?
It's going well. It's been a little bit of time since the last time I was on the show, so I'm happy to be back and sitting in the home studio and recording with you boys.
Sounds good. Yeah, you were on a little adventure. I know there was some beer involved in it there. So you went kind of Midwesty. Is that right?
So me and a buddy drove up and we basically hugged Lake Michigan up until we got to the UP of Michigan, as it's called. And then we made it out towards like central Wisconsin to the Dells area in Madison and then drove home.
Okay. Michigan and the Wisconsin Dells. It sounds like quite an adventure.
There are many a story, a couple of them, a little treacherous and hairy, but it's a good time. A lot of beers, a lot of dive bars, some cheese curds in there too. So adventure was had.
All the good stuff. What beer was the standout for you?
Honestly, through the totality of the day, there was one day that we actually wound up going a little far off the main road, got stuck, pushed out with some snowmobilers, and then we drove to Marquette, Michigan, and closed at a brewery, Blanc Rocks Brewing Company. And the beers there were standout just because of the day that we had.
I hear that. Yeah. I remember one time I was with some friends down in Tampa, and there's this out on the water. There's this little island called Shell Island, and the water around it's pretty shallow. Like people anchor their boats out there, and in this certain area, you can actually like set up a lawn chair in the water. So there'll be like this whole area there where it's just people sitting out there. And I remember being out there. It's hot. It's salt water. You're hanging out. You're having a good time. And my buddy was just a macro beer drinker, and he had a cooler full. I think it was Miller Lights. I think Miller Lite was his go-to. But let me tell you, I cracked one of those after we were like playing football catch or something. So giving around hot, sweaty, salty. That was one of the best Miller Lights I've ever had in my life. It was a really good, a really quality Miller Lite. Not like Bowling Alley Yuengling, Brian, but it was good.
It would be hard to beat Bowling Alley. That was some stellar Yuengling. Did you
our bowling alley beer on the trip was we went to Chalet Lanes in the Wisconsin Dells.
Oh.
And if you bought a pint of Bud Light on draft, you got a free pull tab. So that was our bowling alley Yuengling, was drinking pints of Bud Light and trying to win on the pull tab.
Pull tabs. Do you know what a pull tab is, Brian? That's
I think I have vague recollections of it. Is it like a lottery card where you actually rip off pieces of it or something like that?
Essentially.
Yeah.
I haven't seen those. Were big in the Midwest. I remember, and they also have.
They still are
these punch card things where it's like a block. I don't know, a foot by a foot. I think some are bigger, but you've got this little pin, that little sticker thing, and there's numbers, and you stick through the number, and it pushes a little piece of paper out the backside, and so your prize will be on there, so you can get X number of punches for whatever. So, and my mom and my aunts, however it's said, were bingo players. And they did those kind of things at the bingo halls a lot. But I'd forgot that, man. I grew up in Nebraska, and I remember pull tabs and punch boards, punch cards, whatever they call them. But I haven't seen one of those since the late 1900s, Nate.
We didn't see pull tabs in Michigan, but we did see them in Wisconsin a whole bunch. Okay. And then the other thing in Wisconsin that was big was like ice rolling games. I thought they were playing Yahtzee at the bar for some reason, but like they were just they said, we just like to gamble. We just make up different bar games and easy bar games on how to gamble and whatnot. Um, so yeah, this bar in particular, and then there was another bar at the Dells that we went to called Monks. And Monks, two bartenders were actually rolling to see who got the uneven amount of tips. So like tips for the day, they both got $10. So whatever was left over, they were rolling for that.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were going through Michigan, did you have any pickled bologna or bologna salad?
To be honest, I didn't ask for either of those things.
That's
So
unfortunate.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
Would you have eaten them had they if they were available?
He would have
Absolutely
politely
not.
declined.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Absolutely
Oh,
not.
I'm good. No, I'm good. I'm good. I just ate like food.
I did have
actual food.
something at New Holland Brewing in Holland, Michigan. I did have something that I've never seen before called a pinwheel. And it was like it was almost, I thought it was like a bagel bite, but like dusty up a little bit. But it was basically like this dough wrapped together, and there was cheese and pepperoni. It was all wrapped up and baked, and it was incredible. And I regret not buying the to-go bag, like the freezer bag, so I can make it at home.
Too late. Sounds kind of like stromboli slices or something.
I was gonna say a pinwheel. I think you can get those at the Publix around here. Don't they do that? Isn't that just like a tortilla, a little bit like wrapped up? It's like a sandwich, except you roll it all up. I think I've seen those. I think that's not that exotic, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not getting what that is.
I don't know.
Nate's adventures in food and drink. Good stuff.
I do want to ask if you hung out at long enough at New Glarus to get that special edition release bottle that they were doing.
Brian, we went back the second day just for that release.
How
so
was
we drove. I haven't had it.
Oh,
they limit it 4 bottles per transaction. So I got 8 bottles, and you've got your 2 in your big box of beers for my trip that I'm holding for you.
heck
Good
yeah.
stuff, man.
So they
Good
weren't
stuff.
pouring it at all. You just
No,
Oh, okay. Dang, I thought you could try it. All right. Well, hopefully it's good.
You know, coming from New Glarus, I think that's a safe bet that you
It will
probably
be.
you
Yeah,
probably
of
got a
course it
good
will
beer
be.
there. So
Yeah.
they know what they're doing. They do good work there for sure. Oh, Brian, we got a small update here. Moving before we go into the beers of the week. Tiny update. We're keeping an eye on all this Tilray Brewdog thing, but we got some numbers on the deals there.
Yeah, we talked about it. I figured we needed to put a pin in this, a bow on it or whatever, and just how much did they end up paying for everything. So we now know that Tilray paid for all the Brewdog assets that they acquired, $54.5 million US dollars. So, they
Okay.
paid $10.8 million for the U.S. and Australian assets, which isn't much. I think they said that the actual U.S. assets were worth 20 and they paid 10 for them. And the Australian assets were probably even like less than that, 5 to 10. And they paid $43 million for the UK assets. So, yeah, all told, $54.5 million for everything,
All right.
Brewdog.
For all of Brewdog.
Which at one
That's
point in time
crazy.
was valued, I guess, close to $2 billion. So there you go. Got it for a song.
It's interesting to watch these breweries, man, and what they sell for, what they're valued at different times. And I mean, Ballast Point is still the one I think, sells for $1 billion. And then $32, I think, the last people that bought them, something along those
And
lines.
47 cents plus a pull tab.
Yeah, get that pull
a
tab.
used pull tab. Yeah.
They're like, hey, you know what? Deal.
We haven't cashed this one yet. You can have that with the deal.
Yeah. All right, Brian, beers of the week, man. What are you getting into today?
So I pre-gamed with a Guinness. I was thinking about doing something fun with it, but I was, working later than I expected to. So I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna just pour myself a regular Guinness, and it was lovely. It was wonderful.
Good.
Right now, I am drinking a double dry hop Cosmic Debris from Creature Comforts, which is a return of their 11th anniversary release of this beer. So apparently it's very popular. I don't remember when I think their 11th anniversary was technically last year, but it was popular enough they said, hey, we got to bring this back and re-release it. And so they have. And so I got some. And later on with the Patreon folks, I'll be getting into Edmund's Oast. And I never know if I'm saying that right. It always feels weird saying their name. But Edmund's Oast Cordial Offering All the Chocolate, which is an imperial stout with all of the chocolate and vanilla. And Cordial Offering seems to be a series of pastry stouts from Edmund's Oast. I've never had one of them before, so I'm excited to try it. Everything I've had from them has been generally good. So, yeah. Intriguing
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And Brian, you're for folks that don't know, and you should know if you've been listening to us, Brian is a Boilermaker fan. And when I say Brian is a Boilermaker fan, Brian has written a script in AI to recommend him Boilermakers.
Yes.
Along with scripts to do all kinds of other stuff. He's out of control there. But you got a new Boilermaker for the Boilermaker of the week, Brian. What is the Boilermaker of the week?
I do. I've tried a bunch of them, and my absolute winner that is the one I'm recommending. It's Carton's Regular Coffee and Rittenhouse Rye. This combo is a clear case where the Boilermaker, the two things are greater than the sum of their parts. So it's better than just drinking either one of them alone or together. It's easily the best thing I've tried so far. The aggressive, spicy, high-proof rye is surprisingly excellent and complementary to the milk and two sugars kind of thing going on with the regular coffee. They're great together, but you do have to watch out. They're both pretty high in ABV. It's a high-proof rum. It's a very boozy beer. So take it slow. Though at some point I'm probably going to try, just dumping a shot of Rittenhouse into the beer and just see what that tastes like. But them side by side is really nice. The nice thing about this combo, at least for us, is Rittenhouse is very easy to find around here, and it's pretty inexpensive. The beer is actually a little bit more challenging for us, but it's not too bad. I've seen it on shelves a lot here recently, so I actually went out and bought some more of it. But because everything needs a name, when you're doing a Boilermaker, you got to give it a name. I'm thinking about calling this combo either the regular rye or just the regular, and I'm leaning towards the regular because that sounds more like a Boilermaker name. So,
did AI suggest those names, Brian?
It suggested the regular rye. I think I decided to shorten it to the regular. I did ask it to give me some ideas.
I was going to say, I know Brian consulted the AI bot on this one.
I have to do all kinds of things for me. Yeah.
If you just do a shot and a beer, drinking them separately, is that technically a Boilermaker? Does that count?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the way most of the Boilermakers are done.
I thought the Boilermaker was like you drop the shot glass in the beer. I thought that's the way. I thought that was the law, actually. If you don't do that, believe it or not, right to jail.
Right to some parts of the world, probably right to jail. But no, I think the cliche is the old timer at the bar with a shot that he sips on and takes bigger pulls off of the beer. So drinking them side by side, and I've asked and I've Googled and all that, like that is legitimately the way it's done for a lot of things. Some people will take the entire shot up front and then sip the beer afterwards. That's another common way of doing it. The dropping the shot in the beer is far more rare than you would expect. It just gets more attention because it frequently is
it's
more
a little
of a party
more
thing.
showy.
Jaeger bomb, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean the Flamin' Dr. Pepper, like it's on fire, you drop it in there, you're supposed to slam it, all that. It's a lot more chaotic. It makes a lot of noise, but I think it's the rarity when it comes to this kind of thing. So
all right.
But you can do it however you want. That's the wonder of it. Like I think that some of these work a lot better. Sipping them side by side with the Rittenhouse Rye. You take a sip off of that. You let it sit for a bit. Let it just a little work its magic. Let it cook a bit, and then you follow it up with the regular coffee. And man, those things are beautiful together. It's
good
great
stuff.
Yeah,
good stuff. All right, Nate, I am sure you've got some interesting ones. Being back off your adventure, what are your beers this week?
Yeah, so for those of you that are keeping score at home, this is supposed to be a white week, but I made an exception because I'm coming off of a little bit of a break from the show and my trip. So first off of my glass from New Glarus, I had the Kid Kolsch, which rightfully so is a Kolsch. That was really tasty, very just straight to the punch. It was directly a Kolsch.
How strong is that Kolsch, Nate? Just curious there.
It's
high ABV Kolsch, yeah.
Let me trip over my words a little bit. In my glass currently from Shorts Brewing in Bel Air, Michigan, I've got Juicy Tree. Brian, you will like this. It's an IPA with blue spruce needles, cranberries, and juniper berries.
Oh, that's exciting. Did you bring me any?
I do have a can on hold for you as well, so you're going to enjoy that one. And then on deck, and my third beer for the week, I've got Old Nation, their Pina Colada Cream M43. This one's interesting. We've had a couple of these beers on in the past, like a raspberry or a blueberry, but they make these beers lactose free. So even though it's like a cream IPA, there's no lactose in it. And so this one has pineapple, coconut, and vanilla flavors, and I'm very excited to get after it.
Sounds good. Yeah, vanilla, coconut. I could see that bringing the cream there to the beer. So that sounds good. Pineapple coconut,
Yeah.
a pina colada M43. That sounds like that would be pretty solid stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, and Brian always really likes these beers whenever he sees them because, again, they are lactose free. So
yeah.
I forget how they
no
do that.
danger.
It's like an oat milk thing that they do, or I don't
To
even
be honest,
remember.
yeah, to be honest, I don't even know. We actually went to Old Nation while we were on our road trip. There in Lansing, Michigan, and they just happened to have this one, and I hadn't seen it in Georgia markets yet. So obviously, had to pick up a 4-pack or 2 of that.
Interesting, man. Interesting. But it does sound good. Therefore, I think, I mean, you could get the cream without even needing to do oat milk or anything. Have you seen that before, Brian? That's what they do, or are they just getting it from vanilla and such?
I looked into it at one point in time. That's the thing. I thought it was like an oat milk or an oat cream or something like that, where they used an alternate source of like creaminess for it. I'm sure adding vanilla helps with it as well. I
Yeah.
just don't recall what it is that they do, but I think there's a product called like oat cream or something like that exists. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time looking for a replacement for dairy. If I want dairy, I just go eat it and deal with it, or drink it and
Pop
deal
a
with
pill,
it.
pop a
Yeah,
digestive.
it pop a pill. You know, it's
Yeah.
if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. The rest of the time, I just kind of like shy away from it. So just the occasional thing, and I get away with it for the most part. I'm fortunate. I'm
Fair.
not one of the more extreme cases of lactose intolerance.
Good stuff, man. Well, Brian, Innis and Gunn, I haven't heard them mention much at all lately. And I'm thinking, gosh, we probably are going back 15 years or so at this point. 10 or 15 years. Innis and Gunn was fairly popular, even with the craft crowd. And I don't think they're a craft beer. But they did some fun barrel stuff and this and that. And I guess this news kind of ties in with the fact that I haven't heard much about them. But they went bust and somebody bought them.
Yeah, with all the BrewDog noise and drama lately, we completely missed. This happened like a couple of weeks ago with Innis and Gunn. C&C Group, the makers of Tennent's and Magners being the cider we always think about around this time of year. We're half and halving it with Guinness. If it was a snake bite or sting. So anyway, it doesn't matter. They purchased Innis and Gunn, the brand and the intellectual property, for 4.5 million pounds, or about $6 million US, following the company entering into administration. Administration, for people who don't know, is the legal process in the UK where an insolvent company, which is one that can't pay its debts, is placed under the management of a third party to either rescue the business or liquidate the assets to pay off their creditors.
It's a bankruptcy.
It's basically bankruptcy. It's
All
their
right, yeah.
version of it. Yeah. It's basically also what Sapporo did to Anchor Brewing. And I've not forgotten about that, and I'll bring it up whenever this kind of thing happens. But anyway, in this case, it was already there was already arrangement in place for the sale of the company, and the administration part was just a legal formality. So I guess they still had to go through the process to actually make the sale. For some reason, I don't understand how that works. Because C&C was already a minority shareholder as well as the primary brewing partner for Innis & Gunn, they expect a seamless transition into their existing supply chain. So current fans of Innis & Gunn might not even notice anything happening. If anything, I think I've actually seen a greater presence of Innis & Gunn in the past couple of weeks than I've ever seen it in like a long time. Anyway, while the brand survives, the brewery's tap rooms, the brewery and the tap rooms are closing, and the number of jobs that will be cut is unknown. But there's definitely going to be some cuts. There's going to be a lot of redundancies there. What led Innis & Gunn to this point was a bruising combination of like decreased consumer spending and rising operational costs. So less money coming in, everything's more expensive. Terrible. The founder, Dougal Sharp, expressed his regret for the job losses and the lost shareholder value, but he noted that C&C is the best hope for the brand's future. So they're in good hands. They're not in the same hands as before, but they're in hands that have been helping them out already. So it's probably a good sign for the people who are fans of the brewery. Not for anybody that actually works for the brewery currently. They're done. But
Yeah, but if you want to drink the beer, it'll still be out
Yeah.
there. Have you mentioned that you've seen them more recently than you probably have in the past? Anything new or exciting that they're doing, Brian?
I want to say that I actually saw some interesting. The Irish whiskey cask was one that I'd seen before. I want to say that I saw that again recently, for the first time in ages. And I obsessed about that one back in the day. But back in the day, they had a rum cask, then a Irish whiskey cask, and a bunch of other stuff. Just the regular one. I see a bunch of the regular one. They've changed up the branding a bit. It's a little bit more modern, so it's a little more eye catching. I'm kind of intrigued. I kind of want to drink it again. It's just I haven't gotten around to doing it. So
Okay.
yeah, back in the day, I think they were pioneers in some of the excessive use of barrels. Like nobody was really doing that much of it, and they were throwing their beer in every kind of barrel they could find. Yeah, so
I remember that, seeing a bunch of different casks, and they'd always have some new one out, new variant, flanker, Brian, a cask flanker.
yeah, exactly.
There.
Yes,
So, good stuff. Brian, Nate, guys, are you ready for this? I have some absolutely great news for you.
lay it on me.
With all the stuff going on right now, beer is there for us, and beer is going to save the world,
I
right?
knew it. I knew it.
Absolutely, it helped create civilization. It's going to maintain civilization. That's what
checks
I've
out.
always said. Yeah, but yeah, what you're saying is we've got a significant beer innovation this week. It's big. It might be bigger than you think it is. Anyway, Almanac Beer Company is using a direct air capture, aka DAC machine, located in their parking lot to pull CO2 directly from the atmosphere to carbonate their beer. So you're going to say, what? Breweries, they've been reusing their own CO2 from fermentation for years. How is this new? This is pulling it straight out of the air. They've not been doing this. Nobody's been doing that. That's new. The technology resembles an oversized HVAC unit that captures the air, and then a secondary system in a shipping container that next to it that liquefies the captured carbon dioxide, which is what they're using to put in the beer. It's technologies that breweries have been looking into for a long time, but it has only just now progressed significantly. But scaling it up and bringing down the cost is still they're pretty big challenges. So we're taking all these greenhouse gases out of the air and putting them into beer. Basically, that's how it's saving the world. So Almanac took on the cost and the risk of this because their traditional CO2 suppliers have been increasingly unreliable, sometimes forcing them to halt production because they can't get the CO2 they need. So the interesting thing in this arrangement is, and it did come from basically a press release, but they don't actually own the unit. They could have purchased it from Air Capture, the supplier of this thing, but instead they opted to just buy the gas it produces, and the arrangement saves them roughly 15 to 20%. Compared to traditional the CO2 purchases from your typical sources. So the primary driver of this may have been the supply chain reliability, but as a bonus, the process has a carbon footprint of less than 10% of what it captures. So this is very much a win-win for Almanac, and it's a win-win for everybody else. And they have to be loving all the press that they've been getting for this, especially they got an article right up in the New York Times, which is where I found this. So yeah, it's kind of cool. So honestly, you want less CO2 in the air? Drink more beer. Drink more
There
beer.
we go.
That's
Do your
the answer.
part for the planet. Do you know, Brian, does it produce enough to take care of all their CO2 needs, or is it a supplement?
I'm not sure actually. They didn't.
Or does it
specify.
produce an excess? Like, do they get to buy some of it, and this company that is capturing it gets to catch some? Because that'd be interesting.
I did get the impression that it does. It wasn't explicitly stated. So
Okay,
the impression that they give you is this is basically all their CO2. Like they're not buying any more.
Yeah.
Does it produce in excess? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it's just as much as they need. I'm honestly not sure about that. That's a very good question, and I don't believe the article specified that. But I think they no longer have to buy from outside sources, though.
Because I know we've heard of situations where breweries use solar or whatever to generate power, and in certain situations they can sell power back to the grid. They get more than they need, and they can put it back into circulation, so to speak. I don't know how that works with sending power out there and all that, but it's kind of interesting. So I guess even if it's supplemental, if the carbon footprint is 10% of what it captures, and no matter how much it's producing, it sounds like it's a good thing. It's pulling more than it's taken there. So yeah,
it's an interesting situation because they don't own the unit; they're just buying the proceeds off of the unit. So theoretically, if they owned it, it's possible they could be also a supplier and a seller of the CO2. So I'm not sure.
It's an interesting setup there. Yeah.
I think it's a cool thing. If we're worried about CO2, let's pull it out and make beer with it. We all need that. So let's not, instead of pulling it from another place or producing it a different way, just pull it right out of the air.
Interesting. Well, Brian, some malty news here that we've got. So, craft malt. I haven't heard as much about it lately, and I know there were some craft maltsters, down here in the South out of Asheville. We have Riverbend that's very popular with a lot of the breweries around here, and they've grown a lot. Right during the pandemic, when the pandemic was heavy, we did have a malt house attempt to open up in Georgia. I'd stayed in contact with them. Unfortunately, they were a victim of the pandemic. There was just, demand was there. But Brewers Association is recognizing this, and they have added a one-time craft malt category to the Great American Beer Fest.
Yes, for the 2026 Great American Beer Festival, there will be a craft malt category that you can submit your beer under. So the goal is to spotlight the small local malt houses and reward the brewers who work with them. Pretty obvious there. To qualify for the category, the beers that are submitted to this category must use at least 50% craft malt. The category prioritizes showcasing the malt characters over, strict adherence to the beer style. So it's going to be a little bit more forgiving if your beer deviates from the designated style guide. Typically, you'll lose points for that. You might not here. The point here is to make a good beer with a great malt profile, even if it doesn't fit a style well. That's what they're going for. And the maltsters involved will also be credited during the medal announcements for this category. So in terms of, what are we talking about with craft malt? It's defined, craft maltsters defined by being small scale and having local sourcing. A craft maltster produces less than 10,000 metric tons per year of, malted barley, and at least 50% of the grains the malt that they put together are grown within a 500-mile radius of the malt house. So you need a lot of terrain. We're going to need some real estate around it, but 500-mile radius of the malt house. The number of craft malt houses has grown significantly since the early 2010s, and they've done incredible work diversifying the malt supply chain with local alternatives. Some of the grains used in your favorite local beer simply would not be available if not for these, craft malt houses. Like I know we've got some that are specialized, North Georgia. I think there was like a red wheat or something that we have. Nobody was malting that, but we had local guys that were doing that. I kind of wonder why this is a one-time only thing, and why not always recognize the maltsters behind winning, the award-winning beers. And maybe it's because they don't want to commit to it until they see how this goes, but which is fair enough. But I think let's bring them on board. Let's have I think we could always have a special category. We could always recognize their contributions to this.
Maybe it's experimental. Maybe it's like, let's see how this goes. Let's see if it's something worth doing. The one-time thing there. And again, you're adding in another category to judge, another component that they have to look into. So, but it could be interesting. That's pretty interesting there. So, well, Brian, before we move along here, sir, how about, I think there must be something in the air, because I think we're all doing a little stumbling over our words this week. So we'll do better. But before we move on and we get our tongues straightened out, Brian, how about we give a shout out to our friends over at Truck and Tap?
Yeah, good idea. So we're a couple weeks into spring, and we're all a little dazed from pollen, and I'm already tired of talking about the chaotic weather. It's up, it's down, it's this, it's that. So let's talk about something else that with an almost unlimited variety, much like the weather, the beer taps at Truck and Tap. Each location at Truck and Tap has 20 of them. There are 4 locations. That is 80 taps of the finest craft beer around on this big long list. The chances of you not finding a beer that you like on this list is actually less than 0. I've done the math. It's very complicated, but you got to trust me on this. It's less than 0. Like, it's a -% chance that you'll not find a beer you like. So let's flex a little variety muscle, move on from this math. In my Truck and Tap beer picks for the week at Truck and Tap Woodstock, I'm going with Nofo's Alpine Gold. Nofo. North Fulton, I think is what that stands for. Nofo's Alpine Gold. Alpine Gold is a Belgian-style wit beer.
North Forsyth, Brian. For what it's worth. Not important, but I think it's North Forsyth.
Oh, it's a Forsyth. Oh, it probably is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. You don't want to be part of Fulton
For
County.
those who are not aware, that is counties in Metro Atlanta.
Yeah, that's right. And you don't want to be part of Fulton.
Yeah.
But anyway, Alpine Gold is a Belgian-style wit beer with citrus and coriander. I like wit beers, but I don't often think to order them, and I've never had this particular one before. So, yeah, that's 2 good reasons to order it. Also, it's part of the variety at Truck and Tap. At the Duluth location, I'm getting Hunapu's Double Barrel Huna wine from Cigar City because that's not something you miss. It's a barley wine aged in cognac and rum barrels with cinnamon, vanilla, cacao, and chili peppers. So it's much like the original Hunapu. You know, everything about this beer is a mouthful. The name, the ingredients, and the ABV. It's a hefty 13.3%, so proceed with caution. But talk about the variety just in this beer alone. At Truck and Tap Alpharetta, my pick is AleSmith's Pace Car on Nitro. So Guinness isn't the only thing you will find on Nitro at Truck and Tap. Pace Car is billed as Speedway Stout's little, more sessionable brother. It's not that little, it's 6%, but it's a lot less than the actual Speedway. Along with the coffee, the word is it also has some nice, subtle toffee notes, so it sounds great. Sign me up. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, I'm going with Six Bridges Coffee Cake Break. I do love a good coffee beer, and I love a good coffee cake, so I can't pass this up. You might be expecting this to be a big pastry stop, but it's not. It's not. It's actually a double porter with coffee, graham, vanilla, and cinnamon. So it's a pastry porter, if you will. And there you have my varied beer picks for the week. Get out there and have a beer or two. As always, if you'd like to see the full tap list before stopping by, take a look at truckandtap.com. The taps do change quickly, and you never know what great new beer might go on. And if you'd like to see what the food trucks are serving and what events are happening, your trivia, your karaoke, your interesting seasonal festivals, that sort of thing, you can also find that at truckandtap.com. Everything you need to know can be found at truckandtap.com, so check that out, and thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thank you, Truck and Tap. We always appreciate you. So, Brian, some interesting information on the high seas here. We found out, we've heard a couple times before of breweries, microbreweries, brew pubs, whatever, on cruise ships. But we've got a first here. There's a new one out there, and they're actually using desalinated seawater to brew their beer.
I think it's desalinated, but yeah, you know what? That might be the part that makes this unique. They are billing it as the first ever full, microbrewery on a cruise ship, and I guess there's some people who debate that, but they do use desalinated water. The cruise ship is MSC World Europa. It's home to what they claim is the first full microbrewery aboard a cruise ship, and they use desalinated seawater by way of osmosis to get their brewing water. So all of their brewing water is actually coming from the sea while they're cruising. Every step of the brewing cycle, from milling the grain to fermentation and the final maturation of the beer, happens entirely while the vessel is at sea. And it's not just a gimmick or an interesting installation, art-wise. The brewery is a fully functional workspace, and it produces beer every single day, and the beer is available on board, so people are drinking it while they're on the cruise. There are 3 beers brewed aboard the cruise ship: Oceanic Pils, Oceanic Wheat, and Oceanic Bitter. All of these fall into a sessionable ABV range of between 4 and 4.5%. The Oceanic series was developed in collaboration with Teo Musso, the founder of Baladin Farm Brewery and a pioneer in the Italian craft beer movement. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the brewery or the fellow, but they speak highly of him. Of course, people are quick to point out that they missed an opportunity here. They should be brewing a Goza, and I immediately think now was the right time for me to dust off that idea of my old seafood Goza, and they let them
It
run
is
with
not the right time.
Is
for
it
that,
not?
Brian.
Is it not
It
yet?
is not the right time.
You keep saying you'll let me know when it's the right time, but you never say it's the right
I
time.
will, Brian. I will.
Yeah, anyway, the brewery is part of a larger eco initiative. The ship runs on liquefied natural gas and do some other things to help reduce the environmental impact. I have to wonder a little bit when I'm reading this how the motion of the ocean affects the fermentation and maturation of the beer. I have to assume it does a little bit because Jefferson's is it Jefferson's whiskey
Ocean.
or whatever they
They
have
Jefferson's Ocean. Yeah.
Jefferson's Oceans, the at sea different things, and they put the barrels out to sea and just rocks and rocks. But that's maturation in barrels. But I would have to wonder if the agitation from motion would do stuff with the fermentation and the maturation of beers. So,
well, they can stabilize things. There's things out there that they can put on, like gyroscopic stabilization in that. But I could see, like when you're boiling, you don't want a vessel flopping around there.
True. Yeah.
But I could see during fermentation, or even maybe during a portion of fermentation, that having some motion there may not be a bad thing.
I was thinking it's a plus. Like that's a selling feature. Like nobody else has their fermentation tanks rocking slightly back and forth constantly.
Now, when you want to crash the beer out and get it clean, I'm sure they could turn on. I'm curious. I'm curious now how they have that set up. Like, are they able to control if it is impacted by the motion of the ocean or not? Because you would definitely, again, during the boil, you would not want, you wouldn't want it sloshing with the waves of the ship there. And you would want, once you did your fermentation, you were trying to rack it off into another tank, you wouldn't want it impacted by it either. But it could be beneficial during the actual, especially early in the fermentation, to keep it kind of shook there. So I don't know.
I hadn't really thought that far through, like the different stages. And I think with the cruise ships, I was thinking about this, like they are pretty large. I'm like, the actual motion involved, I think they're fairly stable. There might not be a lot. Like,
I've never been on a cruise. So the only thing I see is like when they get in rough seas that you'll see, things really moving out there. But I mean, you got people sitting down having dinner at a table and that, and you've got, people there's pool tables on there on ships and that.
Yeah,
so maybe there's not enough motion to where it's really of any concern there.
That's possible. Yeah. It's like only when they sink is it ever an issue.
Right. Then it's hard to desalinate all of that water.
So I was just thinking, wasn't there a movie about like a cruise ship that went horribly, horribly wrong recently?
No, there's never been a movie about a cruise ship crashing or anything. I don't think that's ever happened.
Well, I was just thinking, I saw one recently. What was it, like Triangle of Sadness or something like that? I don't know if you guys saw it.
Sounds like such a cheesy movie.
Oh, it was terrible.
Triangle of Sadness.
I mean, it was rough to watch. It wasn't actually a pretty decent movie, but
they got a Lego model that they push out, and then someone just hits it with a hammer. It's like, was that a hammer in there? Oh, we meant to edit that out. Brian, Gen Z, and beer. A hot topic, a good one. I read recently, Gen Z, we don't really have anything against y'all. If there's any Gen Zers that are listening to our show, I think we attract a slightly older crowd. I don't think we have a lot of Gen Z that care what we have to say about beer. But there's probably a couple out there. But we love y'all. We just also love talking trash. So anytime we see an article come up that's talking trash about y'all, we're going to share it. We're going to do that. And I saw a blurb the other day. They said that Gen Z cannot handle the 9 to 5. Like they just can't handle working a 9 to 5 job. And they're finding unique places in New York City to sit and cry, literally, because they can't handle their 9 to 5 job. So, but it's cool, Gen Z. You've only got 30 or 40 more years of this left anyhow.
It'll be fine.
Just hang in there.
Remember how they've talked about Gen X being, they're slackers. They're going to they're just never going to make it. They don't have the work ethic. So it happens to every generation. And
every generation blames the one before and all of that good stuff like that.
Exactly.
So it's the way of the world, man. But Gen Z, congrats to y'all. You discovered something here recently. Gen Z discovered printing with Guinness beer foam, or on Guinness beer foam.
Yeah, it's gone viral. It's Guinness, and they love their Guinness. But this week the viral trend is called the Guinness Stouty. Stouty. People all over social media are sharing videos and pictures of their selfies printed on Guinness beer foam. And right now you're probably saying, you might be saying, if you've been around for a little while, hang on, I've seen this before. You're right, but Gen Z wasn't there to make it viral or to give it a name, so now it's the Stouty. They found out about beer foam printing technology, and we've got to give them a moment to reblaze this trail. Anyway, at the moment, there are not a lot of places where you can actually get your selfie printed on the head of a pint of Guinness, which is tragic, I'm telling you. But to be fair, the last time I saw it done, it's been a decade or more. But it was at an event. Somebody brought a special machine to do it. It was a whole thing. I think the entire event was around being able to get your face, or not even your face. I think it just printed words or a logo on,
like the Guinness logo or something.
You could get it printed.
back in our day, I don't think they were that customizable, Brian.
Yeah, because I
you
don't
could
think
just
they
get-
they had the face technology, but you could specify like you could print your name and the logo, and they could customize it a little
madness.
bit. But yeah, if you'd like to experience it now, the full official capacity, you have to head to the Guinness Storehouse or the Open Gate Brewery for the official Stouty experience, because that's a thing. When you go there, you will see the Ripple Maker PM in action. That's basically a 3D printer that uses malt extract to render images in beer foam. The technology is pretty cool, and I looked to see if you could just buy yourself one if you wanted, and it turns out you can. It'll set you back $2,570 on Amazon, but you can do it for yourself if you'd like, and I'm sure a bunch of influencers have already done this. And not only that, it can also print on cappuccino foam, apparently. So you can do a cappuccino E if you'd like as well in the morning. So there you go.
That'd be fun. See, when we had the studio, we should have got that. And when we had guests come in, we'd like have their name printed on their top of they'd come in, they'd sit down with their name printed on a beer there.
It's like you have to drink a Guinness because that's the only foam that's solid enough for us to print on.
That's the only way we can do it. Drink it fast before that foam falls down there.
Have you noticed how incredibly durable the foam is on Guinness? I finished the Guinness earlier, and like in the bottom of the glass was a rock solid like layer of like half an inch of foam. I'm like, that foam ain't going nowhere, So
another brewery that does impressive foam that I've noticed, one of our local boys, Halfway Crooks. And their lagers and that it'll hold head for the whole glass there. So they got that foam stability worked out, whatever they're doing.
It is impressive. I like anything in the side pull when the foam hangs out the entire time. That's just like little bubbles of like aroma, which is flavor. Like that's great. I love that. People still undervalue the foam on a head of beer,
So now I'm inventing something. I don't know if it's already been invented, but they should do a thing where they pour a beer. And this is related to another thing. Does anybody remember when they had a moment where they would do beer slushies and like top your beer with beer slush?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So you could get, and they would take some of the beer, and I don't know if they had to dilute it to get it to freeze or anything, but you'd get a regular beer, but then they put a shot of slush in your beer there. So my idea is they make a foam infused with like hop aromas in that. And they pour your beer, but then they pop a cap of the special foam. And Brian, they could have it lined up like taps where they could have a few different foams. And if you wanted to accent the grapefruit or you wanted to accent piney notes or whatever, they could hit your foam on that to get that done. You could layer your beer with foam with some aroma notes to complement or contrast the beer in your glass.
Let me get a little of that Nelson Sauvin foam on top of it. And they can do Boss Pour, and because it would be a very stable foam, I'm sure when they figure it out, it would actually be on top floating like a little mountain on top of it. So you could still get your Boss Pour in your shaker pipe and have that floating mountain of foam on top of it. That'd be wonderful.
There you go. We're waiting for that technology. Bring the Randall back as well and just put flavor everywhere. So
yes, let's flavor all the things.
It's Flavor Town. We need to get Guy Fieri to help us with this project.
He looks like he's covered in beer foam most of the time. So yeah.
Good stuff.
I mean, with you boys being the fragrance boys, would you like layer the beer foam fragrances to, get a different like fragrance blend or whatever? Or would you do them side by side? So you'd be like, oh, I turn this glass 90 degrees, I get Nelson Sauvin. I turn this glass, I get Cascade or whatever.
The world is our oyster, Nate. We can do whatever we want. Maybe sometimes I just want a little Nelson Sauvin there.
It could be a Milko pour with layers. Like at the top, it's Citra and then Nelson, and then I don't know, Mosaic at the bottom or something like that as you're drinking through the foam. And it could be an amazing thing. Nate, didn't you do something where you put a beer into what's the thing with the
the whipper?
About?
Yeah,
the whipper. Yeah. That was effectively the same thing, right?
We had you boys come over, and there was like a kind of flat beer, so I put it in the whipper with some CO2 cartridges and try to just inject some quick carbon dioxide into it, and it was mostly foam.
Yeah, It did not
Perfect.
work as intended there, but maybe Nate, you're making it portable, man. They can come around your table.
Yeah.
It's like, sir, it's like grinding pepper on your salad.
Say
They
when.
were like, yeah. I'm
Or-
like,
Or like the Brazilian, the churrascarias, where they bring around instead of bringing around different meats, they bring around different like whipping containers full of different hops.
yeah.
Should like a little of this on it, a little of that on it. Just-
I forget what it was called, but I shared it with you last week, Brian. But it was a thing with a pickle dropped in a beer, and I think it may have been Keystone actually partnered with a
Keystone,
pickle
yeah.
company,
It was like the
So-
pickletini or whatever.
so they could do
yes.
that and then take a foamer, a whipped cream thing there. What's that actually called, Nate? I know it has a
An-
name.
ISI whipper.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Okay.
But think about doing your pickle beer and loading the foamer up with some Sriracha Ace. And so
Oh.
you do that. They're like, sir, would you like a little Sriracha Ace? And you're like, yeah, thanks.
on your pickle beer.
And they're like some
Yeah.
fresh cracked pepper. And you're like, that's I don't know why you would offer me that.
Wouldn't we have to fight with Japan at this point for Sriracha Ace? Don't they keep all of that for?
They keep most of it. I don't know about all of it. They used to let a little bit
various
out.
beers. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it. That's the next big thing, y'all. Just keep an eye out. And the great thing is like Gen Z 2.0 or whatever. I don't know what the next generation is because we ran out
Alpha,
of
I
letters.
think.
So
I think it's
Are we
Alpha,
back
yeah.
to Gen
Yeah,
Alpha?
we're rolling around, and I don't know. I
So-
don't even know what the one after that's called. They've already come up with a name, I think.
I love that they're going to be able to connect to discover this in 20, 25 years. Too.
Probably.
So,
Yeah.
what a beautiful day to be alive, man. Good stuff. Brian, keeping the good vibes going. Let's talk about beer taxes.
Ooh,
So,
yeah.
did a little investigational info you saw, and we found out the states that are hammering beer makers the most on taxes.
Indeed, and I got to give credit to VinePair. They like to publish these pretty frequently, at least once a year, I guess. The wild thing is in the U.S., taxes account for a higher percentage of the cost of a beer than the ingredients, the labor, and the other materials combined. And that's a claim that they make. I didn't actually do the math, but I believe them. I definitely believe them. The beer prices are driven by a combination of levies that you got federal excise taxes, state level excise taxes, municipal levies, and retail sales taxes. So you got probably 3 to 4 layers of taxes on every beer that's poured. The federal excise tax alone ranges from about 11 cents to 58 cents per gallon. But each state also imposes its own, individual excise taxes on beer, and you got the municipal taxes and the retail sales taxes on that. But the biggest variable is generally the state taxes. So the big question is, which state has the highest taxes on beer? Well, for the second year running, Tennessee has the highest beer tax in the nation at $1.29 per gallon. Following right behind Tennessee is Alaska and Hawaii with $1.07 and 93 cents, respectively. So Tennessee is taxing higher than Alaska and Hawaii, which are typically like places. I guess the tax. I always think of those being more expensive because they're harder to get to, but they typically have higher taxes on these things too. But there was a change in the top three. Kentucky was tied for third place last year, but they dropped their taxes from 93 cents to 89 cents per gallon. Good job, Kentucky. That puts them in the fourth spot. In the fifth spot is Washington, D.C. at 79 cents per gallon. And for those of you who are also in Georgia, we have a lot of Georgia listeners, we are tied with Florida for the 10th highest state beer taxes in the land at 48 cents per gallon. If you look at the map that's out there of the state beer taxes, one thing is pretty clear: the South is higher on average than any other region of the country because we got them sin taxes. We're pretty dark in the shades of tax territory. It gets a lot lighter in any direction away from the South. So, yeah, that's how it is.
It does, yeah, much lighter there. So, yeah, I'm surprised Georgia. We've got Atlanta that helps us out a lot. If we didn't have Atlanta, man, we would definitely have a lot of things different here.
I don't know. So
this country.
Atlanta is a little bit more progressive in terms of its respect for beer. So I think Atlanta itself is probably a little less likely to levy the sin taxes.
That's what I was saying. I was like,
Oh.
if the state didn't have Atlanta, things would be a lot worse.
It would be worse. Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah,
I was going
yeah.
to say, I'm like, I think Atlanta's the only reason it's not a lot worse. We're
Right.
like up
That's
there with Tennessee.
Yeah, that's what I was
gotcha.
saying. Sure enough, man. Sure enough.
South Carolina's bigger than us, or
Absolutely.
heavier than us. North Carolina apparently slightly heavier. I don't have the exact numbers, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's rough down here in the South for beer.
It's rough, man. It is tough. We're trying to make it through, but we just can't quite get there on some of our things. Like we just had another bill up to try and get, we just tried to get our distribution laws changed.
Yes.
And no luck there. But we keep trying.
We've tried it. Was that the second or third year that they've attempted to bring that forward? It's been a couple times, right? And we just can't. We cannot, for the life of us, get any motion on it. I'm just gonna say it again. I mean, the politicians here are bought and paid for by distribution.
Yeah.
So distributors own them. They just tell them what to do, and they're not willing to give up any ground. And nobody's gonna look at the situation and say, this doesn't make any sense, and it's horribly unfair for the breweries. But no, nobody cares because they're getting paid. That's how it is.
Between the religious laws, the religious things pushing that, it's a tough battle. It's a tough battle.
Yeah.
So just doing what we can. Brian, moving right along here, hops. We got some experimental hops, and another one has got a new name. Something always exciting to see a hop get a new name there. So what do we got in the world of hops?
Yeah. A hop formerly known as experimental hop D55 has officially been named Ramosa by Siegel Ranch. The name both honors the veteran breeder Martin Ramos and references the hop's physical and aromatic structure. Martin Ramos is the man behind the hop, and he's been breeding them for 30 years, and he's been dubbed by as the Hop Whisperer. He's been dubbed as the Hop Whisperer by Vinny Salurzo of Russian River. So if Vinny Salurzo likes what you're doing with hops, you're doing something right. So what can we expect from Ramosa in our beer? The official word is it bursts with aromas and flavors of pineapple, mango, and fresh cut melon. Big names like Treehouse have been already experimenting with Ramosa in both whole cone and pellet forms. So we're probably going to see this hop a lot in the coming years. So there's a lot of interest behind it. Up until now, the supply of Ramosa was limited, but now it has entered into global distribution. So there's no limit to the availability of that. So we're gonna start seeing people bragging about using this hop very soon. So I'm excited to try it out. Yeah,
Ramosa everywhere, man. Ramosa everywhere.
I think it's meant to be a reference to Mimosa, but also Martin Ramos. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's cool, man. I love seeing new hops, seeing what they're doing out there, the hop technology and all of that stuff. So, good stuff, man. Good stuff. And Brian, kind of ties into what we were talking about there with the taxes and that. We've got some info on the most expensive 6-packs. And price history in that. So what do we know, man? Where's beer expensive? I think I can guess maybe.
Well, no, this is interesting. So it's over the years. This is kind of a fun one from a website that I don't know too well, but called cheapism.com. It shows the price for the average price of beer, 6-pack of beer for every year since 1952. So you might think today you're paying a lot for a 6-pack of beer. Things have gone up a lot in price. But this may put that into a little perspective historically. Back in 1952, people were paying $1.57 for a 6-pack of beer on average. But before you get excited, it's been a long time ago, in today's dollars, that's the same as paying $19.36 for a 6-pack of beer. And they did not have hazy, juicy, double dry hop New England IPAs back then. They probably didn't even put 25 pounds of hops per 16-ounce can in their beer. They didn't even do that. It's just terrible. They were probably just drinking whatever big name beers were available or regionally produced lagers, that kind of thing. So what's interesting to see is while the price of people pay over the years ticks up, what actually drops fast, when you compare that to today's dollars. 10 years later, 1962, they were paying $1.70, which is, a little jump in price, but that equates to $18.63 a 6-pack, which is a big drop in price. 10 years later, it's $2.07, which is $16.46 today, and that's a $2.17 drop in today's money from the 10 years prior. In 2002, $6.62 a 6-pack, which is about $12.22 in today's money. So you can see it really dropping like a rock. And Yeah, that's a $7.14 drop in today's money from 1952. So the price of a 6-pack in 2025, on average, like a lot of big beers, at $10.96. So in 1952, that was $19.36 in terms of effective like money for the time. So the big news here is beer is 42% cheaper in real terms than it was in 1952, despite the price rising by 7 times since then. That's the power of inflation for you. So, do you guys know how much beer was on average the year you turned 21?
I can remember, and I think this was probably a little bit before I turned 21, but I recall 4.99 six packs. I mean, I recall $5 six packs, and I seem to remember spending 6.99, five or six, like $7 was an average six pack for me. And I can remember we had a store that had, it was seriously the white cans with the word beer on it, and those would sometimes be 2.99 a six pack there. So, when I share these stories, Brian, I do have a few years on me there. And I remember talking to my dad and mom when I was younger, and they would talk about going to the movies for a nickel and
That's
a
wild.
gallon of gas for a quarter. And I remember thinking how horrendously old that made them sound to be able to do
Yes.
that. So I'm sure that I sound much the same way now, telling these kind of stories. But yeah, so I do remember like 4.99. That sticks with me for some reason, seeing that.
That sounds about right. When around the time I hit 21, there was the big thing I love seeing is I'd go to the stores and I'd get Henry Weinhardt's, and they started actually doing seasonals way back then. And we were like $5. That was the deal price. I
Yeah.
think they were a little higher than 5 typically, but you go in and they'd be marked down to 5, and I'm like, heck yeah, let me grab a couple of those babies. So, and that wasn't the cheap beer. That was they were craft-ish.
That was the
I don't
micro
remem-
brews.
Yeah, they were microbrews. I don't know if they were officially craft by our standards today or even our standards 10 years ago, but they were definitely craft adjacent. They may have been Anheuser-Busch by then technically, but I think they'd only been a few years, possibly. I'm not sure. So, but that was my big thing. It's like, heck yeah, look at that. Those are $5. Let's go grab some. So, yeah.
And back then, I don't think people got as bent when AB and Bev bought a brewery.
Nobody cared.
I had
no idea.
It was not a deal like it is these days. Nate,
But
how
well,
about you, man? What do you remember?
as a resident millennial,
Yeah,
by the time I turned 21 in 2010, beer prices were already on the rise. I don't remember what the cost of a six pack was when I was 21, but I do remember about 2014 when I started working at a liquor store, what prices were, and the price of a macro six pack was $7.99, and the price of a craft six pack was about like they were just getting into like the $9.99, and everybody was just like, "Hey, we're gonna hold it $9.99." Sweetwater, Terrapin, everyone was trying to hold at that $9.99 price point,
I remember
and
that.
it
Yeah,
really was Ballast Point. Ballast Point was the six pack brewery that came on the scene with their $13.99 Sculpin IPA, and that's what started the floodgates of,
They
hey,
blasted.
we're just gonna
I
jump.
thought
We're
it
gonna
was
jump
crazy,
up.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen 4 packs that are $30-$40 for
Yeah.
beers that
Oh,
are
yeah.
fairly basic, I would say, like a DIPA or something like that. DIPA, a nice New England hazy, it's like $40 for a 4 pack. Now they're 16 ounces. So, but I mean, we're still talking 64 ounces of beer for $40 here.
The 24 to 26 dollar 4-pack of hazies is very common these days.
Yeah.
And I try
Crazy.
not to think about it, but yeah, it's a younger me that the me that was enraged that Guinness went up from 275 to 350 at a local hot new place that has since closed down, but they were hot at the time. We're like, you went up like 75 cents for Guinness? What on earth? This is outrageous. Outrageous, I tell you.
Crazy stuff, guys. Crazy stuff. Well, y'all, that about wraps our show up for this week. As always, we appreciate you joining us. If you dig what we're doing here, we would love it if you would tell a friend to tune in or maybe share a tweet to our latest episode there. It's always appreciated. If you really enjoy what we're doing, please do consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beer guys Yeah, you can follow us for free. You'll get occasional updates. We don't do a lot on our free tier, but you can subscribe for fairly cheap, and you'll get some info from us there. But with all that said, we do hope that you have a really, really good week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.